Arday was the youngest black person ever appointed to a professorship at Cambridge University. He was the subject of many BBC programmes because of his extraordinary life story. He was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. He was non-verbal till the age of 11. He was illiterate until he was in his late teens. Then at 37, he became a professor. But there's more. He also had a brain tumour removed just before his PhD visa. He ran 30 marathons in 30 days. Now he's been accused of plagiarism. The row has been raging all week, and he's given an exclusive interview to The Times in which he says, "I am accountable for the mistakes I've made. I hold myself accountable, and other people should hold me accountable. We're talking about academia here. I didn't murder somebody. I think the cruelty that I've experienced and the positioning of me as this kind of liar and fantasist is totally unacceptable." He also accused his critics of racism. A group of his supporters has signed an open letter accusing the right-wing media of a smear campaign. The author, Nels Abbey, has signed that open letter, and he joins us now. Hi there, Nels.
Morning.
Let's just go into the specific allegations against Arday, because I think there is a lot of noise about this story.
Please go ahead.
Okay, and then you can say whatever you want to say.
Sure.
So the specific allegations are that his 2015 doctoral thesis at Liverpool John Moores University had more than 100 passages in it, which are near identical to a 2009 thesis written by another student. That a focus group he said he conducted in 2017 for a paper published by the journal Social Sciences used quotes strikingly similar to ones obtained and published in the British Medical Journal by another academic in 2016. And when this was pointed out, Social Sciences withdrew the paper and made clarifications. And that he's repeatedly changed the race and background of his anonymous case studies on at least 25 occasions across 3 different papers. Now, Dave Harris, who's an emeritus professor at Plymouth Marjon University, says he's seen indications of serious plagiarism, and he can think of no other plausible explanation for what he's read. Nels, what do you say to that?
I say, dear Jason, following the academic misconduct panel hearing that took place on the 25th of February 2026, and which I chaired alongside Professor Scott Foster and Julie Sheldon, I write to confirm the outcome. It was the unanimous conclusion of the panel that the allegations of 1, plagiarism in your PhD thesis, 2, cheating in the vice post, that's how I pronounce the word, examination, and 3, exceeding the length of exceeding the work length limit were not proven. So I think that puts a close to that. That's from St. John Moores University. Can I pose a question to both of you, just for 1 moment, too?
Yeah, go.
I really want to. It's something I'm really interested in, because this is now becoming farcical right now. Why is it that every single movement or every single step towards black liberation or equality or reconstruction is rapidly destroyed, or is rapidly lampooned, or is rapidly torn down? I pose that question to you because I come here this morning seeking answers as much as I seek to answer.
Okay, well, I will give you a response that I think you are right to suggest, and I think other people are right to suggest, that people have got it in for Jason Arday. I also think he has questions to answer about the near duplication of other people's work that has appeared in his work, and that both those things can be true at once.
Well, but I don't think that answers my question, because I think there's a more broader situation happening here. Today is Jason Arday. Last month it was Miss San Harriman. Months ago it was somebody. It's always a pipe, and I've seen this time and time and time again.
So are you saying that black people are held to a higher standard than their white counterparts?
I say black people, not just all black people, I was clear, black people who harbour a desire to actually improve the outcomes of life, and life outcomes and the quality of life for black people. Black people genuinely love black people. They often find themselves at the being torn down very, very significantly. The way that, say, I don't know, people who harbour what I would describe as clear-cut white supremacist tendencies are not torn down at all. There's no, you've got somebody or so who's pretty much leading one of the major parties who lied about getting into Stanford in the medical, or to go study medicine, which proved not to have been true. So there's no investment into that.
Well, I mean, they've certainly hit the headlines as a result of it. I mean, but let's focus on Jason Arday, because that's what this story is about. Because what he's done is what you're doing. He's raising a wider point about racism and vindictiveness. But if you focus on Arday, I mean, he claimed to have played semi-professional football. There's no record of him doing so. He claimed to have run 600 miles in 12 days, raising £5.5 million for charity. He's now accepted that actually he raised that money as part of a syndicate of 100 people. There's also no proof of him running 600 miles in 12 days. There is a concern that he's either exaggerated or been guilty of straight-up plagiarism.
It's just not accepted. I've never did St. John's Moores University. I think that's the key thing here. Jason,
but I'm not talking. All right, you might not accept it. John Moores University might not accept it for whatever reason. But if you look at the passages of the other students' work and of his work, which are set out today in the Times newspaper, they're almost identical. That surely must cause concern.
For who?
Well, for people who were worried about academic propriety.
Okay, well, from my perspective, look, I think that might be some questions that you're probably going to pose to Jason when you see them, and where Jason has answered them, he's answered them robustly. There's no issue about this whatsoever. There's no issue that he's been investigated, and I suspect he'll be investigated again, and I suspect he'll be exonerated once again too. But I want to point out to you where all this comes from too.
Go.
That gentleman called Nathan Coffner, does that name ring a bell to you?
It does.
Are we comfortable actually standing behind an ardent, very, very clear-cut white supremacist? And I don't mean that I mean that in almost the most real-life Calvin Candy supremacist manner possible. Are we comfortable with this?
He seems like a very unpleasant character, and I think he's been disciplined by his. I beg your pardon?
What makes him unpleasant to you from your perspective?
Well, I mean, I'm not aligning myself with white supremacists. That's not the sort of politics that I want to get involved with. But what I do want to look at, want to scrutinise, is someone's record when they appear to have questions to answer. And to be fair to Jason Arday, he gave his very first interview today to the Times where he tried to answer those questions. But that doesn't mean that the scrutiny won't stop. Look, if you're the youngest ever black professor at Cambridge University and you've had programmes made about you and you've been celebrated and you've got an autobiography coming out called Great and Unfortunate Things next month, which will get scrutinised, then surely as a public figure, you've got to expect people poring over your record.
And people are poring over his record in a way that they're not poring over other people's records too. And I ask once again too, I'll say this.
Look, journalists asking questions about Jason Arday were reported to the police.
Well, I think that what Jason Arday has faced over here, again, where you look at where all of this is coming from a man you yourself just described as a white supremacist moments ago, effectively described as a white supremacist moments ago. If you take a look at where this is coming from and you look at who Jason is, and Jason tried to protect his own positive energy in his own space and his own track record too, can you understand why he might see this as harassment as opposed to actual journalism? And I must point out too, one thing that we must accept in today's day and age, that the overlap in certain places between journalism and white supremacy has been blurred very, very significantly. And that's true. But I must be clear.
If Jason Arday is copying other people's work, if he is making up interviews that he conducted and then having to, when questioned about it, withdraw them and correct them, if he's been changing the race and background of his anonymous case studies in order to prove a point. Now, that might be fine in certain circumstances, but it's not a Cambridge University, is it? It's not in academe, where you have to be really, really clear and accurate about your research standards and your sources and the point you're trying to make.
Where Jason has been asked about this, he has addressed it. I want to be clear there. I want to be clear here. Jason Arday is one of the best of us. Is an absolutely brilliant young man, a veritable genius who's overcome a significant amount to get to where he is, and he deserves to be where he is. And I understand that, look, there's going to be some degree of scrutiny upon him also, but the type of scrutiny that he faces is absolutely excessive. You would have thought the guy committed a crime here. You would have thought that he's murdered somebody or something. But I must be clear once again too, I think that part of this is that if Jason Arday was some Tony Sewell or Trevor Phillips type of character or so, who is one of these people, I'm not saying that to impugn them, this is their politics, that harbored a particular type of politics that was very, very friendly towards a status quo that might be oppressive towards black people, he wouldn't be facing this at all whatsoever. In fact, he'd be celebrated. But
if you're publicly calling him a genius, then he obviously is going to have his record examined. I mean, if you celebrate someone as being so exceptional, so extraordinary, to have been mute and illiterate to the age of 11, then 18, and then to have this stellar rise, of course people are going to ask questions. Of course they are.
Yeah, and
it's not just because he's black.
But I go back to asking you once again. It's a question I never received an answer to.
I will try and listen harder and give a more full answer.
I greatly appreciate that. Why is it that every single movement towards black liberation, towards black equality, towards the reconstruction of black people, why is it that it's all destroyed?
Well, because a lot of people are racist, aren't they? I mean, that's the answer.
I can list each and every one of them. I'm not making this up. I'm saying this. So
I'm not accepting your premise. I'm just giving you an answer because a lot of people are racist.
And I appreciate your answer. So I just say so. But you're addressing what's individualized racism. I'm pointing out that it's actually a lot more institutional. I say that sometimes so that what we face there, that the movements are made up of people, and sometimes when these people actually rise to the force, be it adjacent, be it many other people that we've seen happen or so, they end up getting destroyed time and time again. It's very, very, dare I say, painful to see, and we know where this is coming from, and I think you just admitted to where it's coming from too. Now, I'm not saying that Jason shouldn't be questioned. I'm saying he should be questioned, but I'm saying that things should be put in proper context, and things should be put in proper context and really properly understood. What's actually been selected here is, look, the guy's written 100,000-word documents. I'm sure you've written books before. I've written several. I've written pretty much all sorts of things, dissertations included. And I'm sure sometimes or so you've probably made errors along the way. Are you with me? That's just how these things tend to work. And as Jason rightfully pointed out, the quality of supervision he was receiving at the time, the quality of actual proofreading that we were receiving at the time, pre-2021, wasn't what it should have been. It wasn't what it should have been.
And that came out of the investigation as well. Nels, we're going to have to leave it there because we're late to the news, but I really do appreciate your time this morning. Nels Abbey, who is talking about the work of Jason Arday, who's given an exclusive interview to The Times this morning addressing the allegations of plagiarism.
In which he says, I'm accountable for the mistakes I've made.